Right, guys, we're back again, another week, another amazing guest. I'm super excited, for this one um, episode. Bring Others Along podcast. This is a special one for a lot of reasons, but I've got the CEO himself, the Chief Energy Officer that he's known as. But definitely, one of my favorite people, my guy, someone that I've known, pretty much near a decade now. Someone that I confide in, I trust in, someone that I definitely try and get their ear as much as possible. So we've got on the podcast this week, Mr. International Keynote Speaker, MC Arthur, just all round good guy, entrepreneur extraordinaire, Mr. Larry Long Jr. How are you, sir? And welcome to the podcast.
Oh, come on, Shane. Where do I mail the check for that amazing intro? Come on. I mean, it's my pleasure and my privilege to be here with you and your listeners. Thank you. I can't wait to have this chat.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you. Now, like I said, someone who, I hold in very high regard, someone who I've obviously known a long time, and I'm excited for the audience and the listeners and the viewers to, get a flavor for all that you've got going on. Obviously, kind of your trajectory to how you regarded now as one of the top, I would say, or in my opinion anyways, speakers out there, making waves, trailblazing, all that good stuff, pushing the culture forward. But, as usual, I do like to, kind of give the guys a flavor for, how things were, prior to, where you are now. Really take us on a journey so we can get an accurate view, I would say, of, how you achieve, what you've achieved thus far today. And obviously in between all the gems and all the different, kind of advice that you'll be sharing with the guys. So let's get into it. Like I said, I've known you quite some time, but even for me, this is going to be, quite a good journey, because I'm curious to find out how was the household, how was Larry growing up, how were things for you back in the day as a youngster, the family dynamic, talk us through those early days.
Yeah, I hope everyone has their seatbelt on, because it's an adventure and often a misadventure. But yeah, I grew up rich in happiness. We weren't anywhere close to rich in money, but I was surrounded by love, had both parents, my father, my mother. My dad grew up in Baltimore City, which the nitty gritty, the projects, only one from his family to graduate high school. And he used track and field, long jump, triple jump as his way out. So just observing my parents, how much love they showed me, how much importance they put on being good to other people, taking care of other people, making sure that you boost yourself up so you can bring others along, which is why it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here, because this is really meaningful. My mom didn't graduate college, but she was a hard worker. My father, I mean, it was just my upbringing was just blessed. I look back at it with fond memories, and I'm trying to create that same blessed experience for my kids, my wife, as well as anyone else that I come into contact with, because there's no better feeling than knowing that you've got fam. And fam doesn't always have to be blood, but you got true fam. And I consider you family. You spent Thanksgiving with the family.
Yeah,
so you're part of the fam. Shoot, I still have the picture of you with the Rolling Stones. You had that Rolling Stones shirt, the tongue. I said, that's my dog.
Yeah, it's good times, man. That's good times. Yeah, no, we'll definitely get into that, because I was actually reminiscing about every Thanksgiving. Is funny. I always remember, I was like, I remember when I was basically stranded in the US that time, actually, just in a hotel, just on my Jack Jones. And yeah, I actually was like, of course I would come around for Thanksgiving. I was like, get me out of these four walls. But no, it's actually really good to hear that, because, so often it's obviously not the case in a lot of our upbringings within the community, especially amongst Black men. And, it's important for, a different narrative to often be told. It's important to people to, recognize that, we are, monolithic in terms of how we've, been raised, a lot of the different, kind of, I guess, avenues that we take in life. Sometimes it's not always the best. But one thing you can always assure that it was from a loving place, you know, a lot of the time in our family, in our household. So yeah, that's super dope to hear. One thing I wanted to because I remember when we first met and actually hearing kind of a bit about your story was baseball was something that was actually quite prominent in your life, and I heard you reference it, you know, quite a few times and draw a few analogies on it. What I wanted to understand is, why baseball? How did you get into baseball? Because obviously over here in the UK, like football just governs everything. Football is like a religion. So and I know the US, you know, there's tons of different sports, but why baseball?
I think y'all call it rounders. And I know y'all were laughing at me over there. I don't forget. I said, what's so funny about rounders? If it's baseball, it's all good. They said, oh yeah, you play rounders. But growing up, my parents wanted they wanted me to explore every sport. So I did judo. I know knee. I know how to break my fall. I did soccer, as you call it, football.
There you go.
It was too much running. I said, I'm gonna run around all this time for a score of 1-0. I said, oh heck to the nah. I'm winded, and the score is 1-0 or 0-0 in a tie. Plus, my team was terrible. We only won one game, and that's because the other team didn't show up. I said, I don't like this sport. I know y'all call it the most beautifulest sport in the world, which yeah, I'm rocking my Charlotte FC shirt. I can appreciate it. But for me, basketball and baseball were awesome. I wanted to play football, the American football. My mom said, look at your dad. He ain't right in the mind. She said, I don't want my little Larry to get hurt. So baseball, I got to do the hitting in baseball. And my dad had the background in track. I said, hey, you get to hit the ball and you get to run. That's the best of all worlds. So I love it because it's a team sport that's comprised of individuals, and you need every individual on the same page doing their job in order to win the game. And there's so many different variables. It's a thinking sport, just different scenarios. Love it. And I found that I had some success. I had a little bit of God-given ability. I had a tremendous work ethic where I worked hard, and I was able to play in university, and just had an absolute ball, hitting the ball. Now I play a different kind of ball. I don't know if I told you this, Shane, but Tiger Woods is my cousin. They call me Larry. They call me Larry Hit It in the Woods. I'm his long lost cousin. That's a bad joke.
No, Jay, what's crazy about that is because I didn't know a lot about baseball, and I remember the first time we met and we were talking, and you were referencing the baseball kind of, bringing up the baseball analogies, and I was like, yo, I have no clue what is being said right now. I have no idea. And like you said, it was just closest thing I knew to it about it anyways was rounders. But I obviously knew you had, like you said, a God-gifted talent, and you were obviously very good at it because the level you played at. So what I'm trying to figure out as well is, because this was actually something that you referenced a lot in terms of later on, you know, when you moved into your professional career, and I see the correlation now even more so when you were speaking back then. But in terms of, you know, how you were able to ascend and really, I guess, you know, university and play at a relatively high level, what was that process like to get to that level? Was there, you know, talk about that?
Yeah, travel baseball, my solo hitter, which I set up in my backyard for my son. It's a batting tee, a ball that you hit into a net, and it comes back, and then you hit it again, just working on repetitions. And I'll tell you this, Shane, I'm working on a book. I'm writing a book. Who would have thunk it? I got a book coming out, but one of my chapters is strikeouts are a part of life. Because in baseball, I struck out a lot. My coach was like, Larry, you need to get your eyes checked. You don't look like you're seeing the ball. I said, I'm not, I'm just guessing. But it's kind of like life. It's kind of like sales. There's going to be good times and there's going to be bad times. And when you strike out, what I've learned is that mental toughness is so important. It's having that same enthusiasm, that same internal belief in your heart and in your mind that you can be successful. You can strike out 9 times, but the team needs you on the 10th time. It's kind of like sales. You can get no's 900 times, but on 901, you better, in the words of the great philosopher, Bob Marley, you better get up, stand up, and you better say it loud and proud and with confidence. Kevin Hart says, say it with your chest. It's very similar. So for me, I'm a little dude. I'm 5'9 3/4. I round up to 6 foot, but I'm a little dude when it comes to baseball. But I can tell you, I have one of the biggest hearts. I have one of the strongest minds, and just that internal drive to be the best. I've been able to transition from the baseball diamond, the ball field, I think y'all call it the pitch, into the boardroom, into my professional. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. Now, and it's a journey we're going to get into later, because I think it's so important to, kind of give the audience a flavor for how that transition occurred, and, how it's actually helped, like you said, in the boardroom, and, in terms of the corporate space that you're in and occupying right now. But touching on it briefly, and you mentioned, your heart and just your mindset, because oftentimes you hear, and obviously I've played sports as well, and those are things that you often hear, you can't coach those. You either have it or you don't. So where did that come from? That mindset, that heart to, where you just have that unwavering belief in yourself.
It came from my mom and my dad. My dad, being a long jumper, triple jumper, I'll never forget being out at the track. And I'm just playing in the sand. I'm digging sand castles, tunnels, but he's working on his craft. That's a true professional right there, working on your game outside of just the normal practice. And I'll never forget, before he would run, he would mumble something to himself, pumping himself up. It was that self-talk. And it was always positive. It was like, come on, Shorty. His nickname was Shorty Long because he was shorter than me. And he would, come on, Shorty, you can do it. I mean, he was essentially pumping himself up. And when you see that as a young child, it's like, okay. And then my mom and I used to have race walking competitions. And I used to cheat because I hated to lose. And she was like, she used to whoop my behind. Just that competitive juice. So I got it from observation, from experiences, my mom and my dad. And it's one of those things. I remember the Atari. We used to play Miss Pac-Man, and we would keep high scores. We would compete, that competition. And then it was also competing against myself. It's like, my dad was like, can you get the high score? I'm like, no, but I'm going to keep practicing. And I don't know if Allen Iverson listens, but if he is, yes, Allen, we're talking about practice, not the game.
Shouts out to AI. No, that's dope. Because that's something that I've noticed with a lot of the people I've been fortunate to speak to on the podcast, and I've had a few kind of ex-pros and guys who played at an elite level, and that mindset is everything. They always reference it. It's always at the forefront. It's always, if your mindset is in the right place, it pretty much kind of sets you up for success in a lot of ways. So that's very, very true words spoken. So
real quick, Shane, before you move on, there's a quote that I love to reference, and it's Benjamin Franklin, I think that's him. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And you talk about mindset. I went through a stretch where I started off my college career, 1 hit in my first 24 at bats. It's terrible. That'll get you playing the position of left out at the end of the bench. I talked to my dad. He said, how you feeling, little Larry? I said, terrible. I don't belong in Division I baseball. I don't belong in the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC, one of the best conferences. My dad hopped through that phone and yoked me up. And he said, boy, you can't have my name with a stank ass attitude like that. I'm gonna keep it real. And he threw some other 3-letter and 4-letter words in there. He said, you got to get back to practicing, but more importantly, you got to get your mind right. Because he said, you're already defeated. You have no chance to have success. And what I found through my travels and my conversations, unfortunately, there's so many people that are already defeated. They already have that mindset of, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy enough. And what I share with them is that you've got to change that self-talk. First chapter of my book, what story are you writing and telling yourself and believing? Because so many times we believe that BS, that we're not good enough, instead of stepping into our greatness and our success and our excellence. So that's just my thought there on that mindset and that belief.
That's dope, man. There's gems. And that quote, it really, probably for me as well, touches a lot of the things that I kind of believe in and how I speak to myself. It's so important, in terms of what you're telling yourself on a daily basis, or what you're telling yourself in any situation that may arise where you're like, there's a bit of self-doubt, and we all have it, or there's things that you're probably just a bit difficult, or you're trying to get over the hurdle, or whatever it may be. But what you're telling yourself in that moment, at that time, could really change the outcome of what you're trying to achieve. It's pretty powerful. So that's actually a great segue, because we talked about it just now, in terms of the baseball, and just the work ethic, and just all of the dedication and time and effort that you put into it. And I guess transitioning, out of baseball, or, not kind of pursuing that or continuing with that. What was the next step or the next phase that kind of, took your interest after baseball?
Yeah, after college, I went to a company called Accenture doing IT consulting.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was on the road in Morgantown, West Virginia. It's a small country town here in West Virginia. And I remember I took a leave of absence to pursue the baseball dream. I had to give it one more chance. I went to minor league spring training down in Florida with the LA Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Boston Red Sox. And they said, thank you for coming out. God bless you and good night. They chucked up the deuces, kind of like those deuces. They said, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord hit you. So I went back to work, and they said, you're back so soon? I said, you see, what happened was, but what I learned at Accenture was they had high expectations. And we got paid handsomely. They made a lot of money, but they took care of me. And it was a great experience, because what I learned is it's in the details. And there's no substitute for hard work. Like, people can smell BS from a mile away. And a lot of people fool themselves into thinking, oh, I'm working hard. You know what it's like in sports. It's the same thing in business. Oh, I'm working hard. Survey says, nah, no, you're not. You're doing the bare minimum, and you're trying to fool yourself. So what I learned there is that, hey, it's in the details, and you've got to use all your available resources. You got to use people that you know. You got to use Google. At the time, we had a knowledge exchange. You got to use that to get all the information that you can then use to implement. But what I also found is that, hey, it ain't no fun when you're not passionate about what you do. And I wasn't passionate about the work I was doing. I like the money, but money is not everything. Like I told you earlier, I was rich in happiness growing up. Well, now I had some money, but I can tell you I was poor. I had money in the bank, but I was poor from a fulfillment standpoint. I looked at my life and I said, FML, F my life. This isn't fun. Like, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Who am I serving? And essentially, I prayed on it. I moved to North Carolina to open up an indoor baseball and softball academy. Wow. My old colleague said, we knew you were crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy, Larry, but we didn't think you were that crazy. You're going to leave this job and this money to open up a baseball school? I said, yup. They said, oh, we pity the fool.
No, you know what? Speak on that, because I really want to get your take on this, because I've had multiple conversations, with very close friends, people in my circle, a few of them that you obviously know. And we always talk about that dynamic between, having, money, or, making a lot of money, but not really feeling or, earning that money from a place of fulfillment. It's a nice check, it's a lot of money or whatever you're making, but, how, like you said, I think you put it perfectly when you said, who are you serving? Are you serving that check? Are you serving yourself? And that's something that, I would like to get your take on, because that passion and, all that comes with it, in terms of actually loving, wanting to show up every day, happy to do what you do, versus, yeah, I'm just here to collect a check at the end of the month. It's a place a lot of people are in, but, it's definitely a place where, hopefully, a lot of people find themselves being able to transition out of, and be better.
Follow their passion. And that's what I speak on. Shane, I ask folks, when you look at the 8 buckets, and these are kind of my 8 buckets: faith or spirituality, family, friends, fun, fitness, because your health is your wealth, finances, philanthropy, which isn't an F, but I spell phonetically and frenetically. What are you doing in your community? And then you look at your career or your studies. What's important to you? How do you stack rank those priorities And then where do you spend your time, your energy, your resource? I had a gentleman that I coach in Australia, and he told me, hey, my number one is my family. He took care of his family financially in India, sent them money. Number two was finances. He had to make that money to support them. Number three was fitness. I said, dude, when do you work out? He was like, I don't. I said, open up your calendar, put it on the calendar, Monday morning, Monday afternoon, 12 to 12:30. Let's work out. You're going to send me a calendar invite. I'm not going to be there because that's Sunday night, but I am going to hold you accountable. And I want you to send me a selfie when you get done working out. It was my time, Sunday night, 10:30. I get a sweaty selfie on my LinkedIn. My wife said, what kind of coaching are you doing? This doesn't sound right. I said, you see what happened was, but he said, thank you so much. I upheld my promise. I appreciate you making me do it. I said, hold up, hold your horses. I didn't make you do anything. But I asked the question of, if your number 3 priority is fitness and you never work out, Houston, we have a problem. I said, let's go ahead and get in alignment to make sure that what you say are your priorities actually line up with what you're actually doing. It's that say-do ratio versus say-do ratio, which is never a good place to be.
No, I'll speak on it because I think, people often get it, the misconception, of...
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sorry, that was Siri was listening in. I know they're always listening in, but quiet yourself.
No, it's an interesting point you bring up because, like I said, there's a lot of people, especially in our industry and, who's coming from, sales and within the tech space. And like I said, there's a focus, or there's almost it's almost very popular to be like, oh, go hard, just minimum rest, just, as far as you want to, as hard as you want to push yourself, as far as you want to push yourself. And oftentimes your health, or even how well you look after yourself, kind of, goes to the wayside. And I think, for me, there was a period in my life where that was, kind of precedent. It was like, yo, I need to build my career. I need to go as hard as I can, blah, blah, blah. Even though I was, relatively fit and, working out or whatever, it wasn't a priority. So I actually found when I made that a priority, everything else kind of made sense in terms of how it fit into my life, in terms of prioritizing my health and my fitness. So, in terms of you and kind of how you go about, all the things and helping all the people that you are doing, what are you saying? How are you kind of helping them to prioritize, things such as fitness, such as health?
Well, it's understanding your why. And I mean, for me, my faith comes first, then my family, then my friends, then my fun. I'm on a fitness journey. I'll be honest with you. I'm struggling with my fitness, eating right consistently and having the discipline. And it's about habits. It's not about a New Year's resolution. It's about, do you more times than not, most consistently eat right, sleep right, and get some movement in, some strength and condition in to be healthy, because we all know your health is your wealth. So I share with my clients my challenges, my journey, my health journey, because it's something I'm challenged with. And it's about being intentional. It's really putting the intentions down and then following through on it, which is, I've experienced a lot of folks have that challenge in different aspects of their life. Yeah. So, I mean, when you put it all together and you got everything, you're executing on everything, that's a really good place to be. But that's a really tough place to get to, because you said there's some trade-offs. And I know people talk about balance. I don't know if you can have it all, but essentially you can certainly have those things that are most important to you. And you can identify that, hey, flexibility of time, flexibility to travel, flexibility to hang with my family. If that's a priority, I'm going to make that happen. If I'm all about maximizing my earnings, hey, the other stuff is going to take a back seat and I'm going to get my grind on. And the people, there's some amazing folks out there that have it all. They have everything. But my question is, do they really have it all? When you dig down into the core and get off the surface, are they really popping on all cylinders? That's my question right there. That's the quest that I'm on. I want to make sure that I'm popping on all cylinders.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, it's something that, like you said, it's a work in progress, right? It's something that you're chipping away at every single day. You're trying your best to, try and make the most of every single moment the best you can. But I guess going back to, because I actually want to know how this story ends, because this transition is crazy for me. The baseball academy. So you started a baseball academy. Your colleagues or ex-colleagues are thinking he's lost the plot. Absolutely lost the plot. What's he doing? So now you're in that space. What's the goal? What were you trying to achieve? And kind of what was the premise for doing that?
We were trying to help as many kids as possible get better on the field, baseball and softball, but more importantly, exceed at the game of life. We were trying to provide them with life skills. And I think we were successful in that realm. I've got some of my old students hitting me up on LinkedIn. Coach Larry, I'll never forget, write down my goals. I'll never forget, head down, eye on the ball, hard line drives. I'll never forget the importance of hard work and listening to my parents, where when your parents say it, you're like, that's just mom and dad they're just being mean. But when Coach Larry, cool Coach Larry, yeah, when he says it, I'm going to listen to it. So having that impact. Now, unfortunately, on the business side and the money side, we ran out of cash. And if you run out of cash, you run out of business. My parents bailed us out. They bailed my partner and I out. And then they said, hey, you're not a big bank. You're not too big to fail. We love you so much. We're going to let you shut this thing down. I said, that's how much y'all love me. But it was the right thing. We were just, we had more money going out the back door than we had coming in the front door. And I learned my lesson that in business, you better understand your income statement, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flows. Because if you don't know your numbers, you're flying blind. And if you're flying blind, chances are you're going to crash. Unless you're lucky all the way, you're probably going to crash. And with my new business, believe you me, I'm looking at my board. There's a lot of numbers. I know my numbers. Now, I might not know them like my accountant does, but I understand what's going on. Where's the cash coming in and where is it going out? Because I'm not going to let that thing happen again, God willingly.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, it's something that, I resonate with a lot because, even in speaking to you and, kind of getting your counsel on a few things and just understanding, how, the business aspect of things need to be and really having your business in order, and it's something that in our community, a lot of the time if it's not the sexy, cool, kind of thing to do, the business side definitely suffers, so I guess moving out or transitioning from, the baseball academy and, your parents going, right, so let's see what's next out there. What was the next step, and how did that prepare you, I guess, moving forward, for what the next step was?
It got me into sales. I mean, I was looking for jobs. There was a company called SageWorks where I came in and I was making 150 cold calls every day, and they were ice cold. They were the CPAs and accountants. And I'll tell you, man, that was the most strikeouts I've ever had in my life. I think I got one scheduled meeting out of like 700 and something calls. I said, oh my goodness, I'm terrible. And I was working hard. I was trying to learn the script. And one of my managers, I'll never forget David. Yeah, I hear you, David. He said, Larry, come in my office. I thought I was getting a raise. I said, we're going to Sizzler. I'm getting a promotion. He said, dude, our expectation is 150 calls. You made 148 yesterday. If you do that again, I'm going to tell you like the Dodgers and the Red Sox told you, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I said, oh, savage. I tell you, I didn't make less than 150 calls, but there was another manager, James Hatfield. Thank you, James. He said, Larry, come in my office. He said, dude, I like you. You got potential, but you got to ditch the script. He said, you sound like a robot. Hello, this is Larry Long Jr. calling with Profit Sense in SageWorks. Can I have a moment of your time? He was like, no one talks like that, dude. He said, start talking to these people like you talk to your homeboys. I said, James, you don't want to hear how I talk to my homeboys. That might be an HR violation. He was like, yeah, you're right. He said, let's find the happy medium. Talk to them like they're real people and not like you're a robot. I started sharing my story of being a small business owner that went out of business because I didn't understand my numbers. And when I started sharing my story, I was able to connect with CPAs. I think you call them chartered accountants that have business clients whose eyes glaze over when they start talking about numbers. So they could relate. and they want to be able to help those business owners not end up like me out of business. And it was just dynamite. After that conversation with James, I went bananas. Just started getting scheduled demos. I started feeling myself. I was popping my collar. Whoa, it was lovely. And then I had the opportunity to move into marketing, sales leadership, a little bit of everything. And my journey, Shane, I worked for 8 different companies, 10 different positions. 2 companies I left and came back to. So, I mean, it's been quite, like I said, it's been an adventure and it's been a misadventure along the way.
Yeah, but I think that's and that's important for, especially, the youngsters coming up today and those who are thinking about, spaces that we're occupying, whether it's tech, whether it's sales, whether it's leadership, coaching, whatever it may be, to understand, what that trajectory, what that journey actually looks like, what it entails, what's required, because it's not something. And I think, often you get probably a misconception with, the way how the world is right now and social media and things kind of appearing to be, with a snap of your fingers, you're suddenly, a successful entrepreneur, or you're, out here making moves. But it really started, like you said, from those 150 cold calls. That was my background as well, basically telemarketing, how I started. So like I said, I can definitely relate, and it was not easy, because you just get some just horrible people, really. This is not possible.
And I think they call it a 21-year overnight success. Everyone sees the success and they're like you said, snap of the finger, but it comes with blood, sweat, and tears. I can't express the importance of mentorship, having mentors, having many mentors. And recently I invested in a coach, a performance coach that's challenged me to say, hey, Larry, are you getting the most out of your abilities? And is it possible to max out? She pretty much said she doesn't believe it's possible to max out. There's always room to grow, to learn, to improve, to do better. And now I'll tell you, Shane, I'm living my blessed life. I'm living my best life. I'm doing things that I look and I say, who would have thunk it? Yeah, I'm just making up words. Who would have thunk it that I'd be living the life that I'm living? It's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's earned, right? And rightly so. I think you definitely put the yards in, you definitely put the mileage in. So actually going back, because that point you just mentioned is what I was going to, kind of bring up is the mentorship piece. Like you said, James was someone who kind of called you and, instilled a bit of, maybe confidence to just be yourself. Just approach your job, approach the day, just kind of being you. So I guess throughout, and it's funny because a lot of the people that I've had on the show, oftentimes they've got, people, or they continue to have people in their lives who really play pivotal roles in, either making sure they stay on the straight and narrow in some instances, but also guys who push them, when, they might be thinking, oh, this is, I'm down and out, this isn't going to work, whatever might creep into your mind at that point. But there's always people that are there to, for lack of a better word, really kick you up the arse and just really make sure that, you stay on track and you keep things moving. So for you, and you mentioned James being that person in that particular scenario, and having a coach, is it something that you find for yourself personally that's, really been a game changer for you? Because I know that you actually, in a lot of ways, have motivated me. You're the person who I look to when I speak to regards to, how can I come out of this funk, or how can you help with this? So how has that been for you in terms of getting you to where you are now?
Definitely game changing. From my dad, from my mom, my family, my coaches, James Hatfield, my mentor, who I co-authored a book, Chapter 7, The Little Things Are the Big Things. And I really wanted to say the little things are really the big things, but since it wasn't my book, they didn't allow that. But Mark Winchester, my mentor, my friend, my coach, my colleague, my wife, she's one, you talk about getting in a kick in the behind. My wife, she keeps it real. She was like, don't be smelling yourself. You ain't that good, buddy. Let's step it up. My coach, Kristen Frade, absolutely amazing. And then just all of those supporters, you, Morgan J. Ingram in Atlanta. He said, Larry, I see you doing your thing, but you got to get on video. I said, nah, dude, I'm scared. I got the face for radio. He said, man, shut up, dude. He said, I'm gonna tell you like my mentor told me, if you don't get on video, you're being selfish, because all it takes is one person for you to impact for it to make a difference. I said, ain't no one gonna call me selfish and me not do something about it. Yeah. 4 days later, I hopped on video, and now I'm 92 episodes in to my midday motivational minute, all from that conversation with Morgan. So you talk about game changing. I count my blessings each and every day, Shane, to be able to be surrounded by impactful, inspiring folks like you and others. I mean, just the name of your podcast, to bring others along, that says enough right there. Martin Luther King Jr., who we just celebrated his birthday, he's got a quote that I think about every day. It says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing to help others? What are you doing to help someone else out? You're doing it. And I applaud you for that. And I encourage you to keep doing it, because the impact now goes to other people who then they pass the baton and they're doing it for other people. So it's just amazing, man. And I just tip my virtual cap to you to keep doing what you're doing, brother.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot, because, you know, like I said, even before we jumped on camera and jumped on the pod, was, you know, just the words that you would say to me, probably not knowing how they were affecting me, and the things that were, you know, kind of culminating in my mind and really festering to where I got to the stage where you were saying you were scared to go on camera. I was scared to even press record on the podcast at some points, you know, from trialing it and, you know, kind of having conversations with myself and thinking, how do I sound as my voice? So it's just all of those things. But like I said, you know, it's, for me, the message and what I want to do and really kind of build, I guess, with the platform and the community that we've got, you know, all the people who really support it, is, like you said, it does what it says on the tin, right? Bring others along. And that came from a real place, in terms of, you know, I wanted to be brought along in a lot of ways when, you know, I was looking for someone to hold my hand and kind of pull me up, or someone to give me some kind of guidance or whatever it may be. So if I can produce stories, you know, tell, you know, the journeys of people who are doing things at a relatively high successful level, you know, those people who are listening, hopefully, you know, it's inspiring them to, you know, kind of take that same journey, and the blueprints there. So yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words, man, because that's exactly what, you know, we're trying to build. So that's you know, that's definitely where it's at, 100%. So one of the things actually that I wanted to speak to you about, I don't think I've spoken to you about this for quite a long time, because our paths obviously overlap. Actually, before we got there, so when you were kind of going through that period, now you're in, I guess, the corporate space, so you're, you know, trying to build your career and stuff like that. Did you have a vision? Did you have an idea for, you know, what you kind of wanted to achieve? Was there a goal in mind? I want to be X leader, blah, blah, blah.
I'm gonna be honest, there wasn't. There was. I didn't have that vision. I knew I wanted to be the best at what I did, but what does that mean? And when you and I worked together at Channel Advisor, I'll never forget having the conversation with my manager and then the sales leader about, hey, I'm managing the SDRs. That's cool, but I want to do more. And the message was, you got to wait your turn. You got to wait your time. And I'm like, nah, in sports, if I'm ready and I'm producing, look at the scoreboard, then I should be given the opportunity. And unfortunately, there was just a different philosophy. So I said, hey, I'm not going to let the door hit me where the good Lord split me. I got the role to go ahead and get to that next level of leadership, because I know I'm ready for it. And I don't need to wait any time to get there. And I mean, maybe that's just me being impatient. Maybe that's me being driven. But I said, I know that I can do more and I can have greater impact. So I had the jet. But in terms of having a vision of where I was going, I didn't, unfortunately. I mean, maybe subconsciously, but I didn't have it documented of, I want to be a VP of sales, a chief revenue officer. I just knew that I wanted to have an impact on people and I want to make money. I would have been a school teacher, but I'll be honest with you, school teachers don't get compensated the way they should and the way that I was looking for lifestyle. I like to golf. That's not a cheap sport. I like to travel. And in order to do that, you do have to have some financial resources. So I said, hey, sales leadership, I can have the impact, I can make the income, and I can feel good about what I'm doing, serving, learning, growing, helping others. Come on now, that's the American dream. And it's been amazing. Corporate America, there were some bumps and bruises, especially looking the way that I look. There's not many folks that look like you and I. And it's one of those things where it's tough to be what you can't see, but really being able to serve as an example, being able to learn from those before us. And now with my new endeavor, I get to have a great impact worldwide, serving business professionals, sales professionals, colleges and university students to help them elevate their game and to help them believe that they can be great. And that's the purpose of what I do speaking. That's the purpose of my book, is to help folks find their internal greatness and then step into it and make that thing happen.
Yeah. No, that's powerful, man. And I suppose, we'll stay here before we jump on to the next point that I want to make, because it goes back again to why, I wanted to kind of build, this platform, to build this kind of movement, which is, like you said, in a lot of the roles and even a lot of the companies I worked in, they were definitely not, I would say an accurate representation, or at least from my perspective, there wasn't someone who I really could look at and say, they look like me, they talk like me, they dress like me, whatever it may be. There wasn't that, kind of synergy there. And I often found it difficult, to resonate, even in those rooms, even in conversations, you're not your true, authentic self. And I think for this day and age, and especially, how as Black people of ethnic minorities, we're proud people, right? And they're people that I think even now more so, actually, the narrative of, just being yourself, being authentically yourself, showing up as yourself, I think that's probably being championed and maybe being welcomed a bit more now. Whereas back then, I didn't feel like it was something that you could just be out here waving a flag, putting the fist at, like, hey, this is me, this is how I feel. Yeah, you kind of had to get in where you fit in, and just hope for the best. But I think now it's definitely changing. The tide is changing. So what's your perspective on that? Because like I said, you're someone who's definitely been on a journey where, like you said, you've had your bumps, you've had your bruises, but you've overcome, and you now in a space where you're really dominant in what you do and how you do it, and for being you. And I think for me, that's just remarkable. That's super, super amazing. So how do you see that dynamic in terms of what I just mentioned?
It's a great place to be, but I haven't been there all the time. Shane, I'll tell you, I had to put my mask on, not just to stop COVID, but to hold back the real Larry Long. I'll never forget my first job. The gentleman told me, hey, Larry, you got to smile for a mile, great enthusiasm, great energy. When you're on a client site, put your game face on, don't smile. He said, they see you at $150 an hour and they don't want you shucking and jiving. I said, damn, dog. I said, I can't be me. I can't laugh. He was like, nope. I said, ooh, this might not be for me. But then I got that paycheck. I'm going to be honest. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Call me a sellout or what, but I worked my way. And that's why I love what I'm doing now, because I get to be 100% authentically me. Me in the professional setting is the same as me when I'm hanging out with my family, my friends, out at the ball field. I get to be me. And if I'm not a good fit for you, that's okay. We shouldn't be working together. I'm A-okay with that. But for anyone listening, I encourage you to definitely be yourself, but understand sometimes you got to do what you got to do in the circumstance. I don't want you to go out there and put yourself in a position where you're not able to progress up that ladder. My father had a gold tooth. It was a status symbol for those folks in Baltimore City. His mentor told him, hey, Shorty, I know that means a lot to you. You got it as a teenager. You worked hard for it. It's a status symbol, but that gold tooth is going to hold you back from progressing your career, because not everyone sees it that way. And people that don't understand your background are going to look at that as a detriment, and it's going to hold you back. So my dad, begrudgingly, but knowing that, hey, this is where I want to get to, he got that thing removed. and he was able to progress his career. It's unfortunate. And like you said, times are changing, but there's still situations where you got to look around, and sometimes you got to be a chameleon to work your way into a position where you can say, hey, I'm me. This is me. I'm here now, and I can inspire others to see that, hey, I can keep it real. So it's a delicate balance. It's a situational thing because different organizations operate in different ways. And it's like, hey, sometimes you got to look out for what's best for you short term and over the long term.
Yeah. No, it's great points. And I think, like I said, hopefully anyone listening who might be in that position, they might find themselves having to, like you say, put that mask on, be a chameleon for whatever reason. It may not be, they may not be totally comfortable with the fact that they have to do it, or that they're going through that particular period or time, or whatever the case is. But it's just knowing it's temporary, hopefully, and it's a space that you will occupy only for that period of time. And it's
sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, like I said, I've definitely been in those situations. I think we all have, but I think the important thing for me, or at least what kept me, kind of almost sane, I would say, because like I said, you're not your true self. You're not really, being all the way 100 if you're being honest. But it was, seeing the bigger picture, and like I said, knowing that this is, kind of a temporary setback for a major comeback. And that's one of the things that, I always kept in the back of my head, definitely.
Love it.
So one of the things that I wanted to kind of transition into is when, and I know you talked about, you told a story about kind of, the scary part of, well, not scary, but not really wanting to do the video. And I remember you saying this to me, I think it was a while ago, actually, we spoke when you first were going to start the minute. Can you tell that story? Because I actually told this to one of my boys. He was like, what, that guy? No way. Because he sees you now. And I said, yeah, like, and I told him it on purpose because he was going through the same stumbling block. He was like, oh, Shane, I don't think I can do this. This, like, I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. What will people think? The usual stuff. And I said, dude, come here. I'll show you this. Like, this is my guy. Look at him now. Like, he didn't always start there. So can you tell that story briefly? Because I remember you say that to me, and it actually helped me with a project that I was working on. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Sink or swim, I'm just going to go for it. But yeah, I always found that that's something I actually use a lot, actually, as an analogy to a lot of people.
I was so scared. And like I said, Brother Morgan challenged me. He said, hey, you got to do it. If you don't, you're being selfish. And I resolved, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a try. And I went in my back porch. You can look at number 1, it's on YouTube. And I put the selfie video on, and I recorded about 18 times. My son was inside doing the home from school. This was early in the pandemic. My daughter was at the front table doing school, and my wife came out. She was sitting with my daughter. She came out and she said, baby, you've done this about 15 plus times. It was 18 times. She said, I love you, but you got to wrap it up. You're saying the same thing. It ain't getting any better. Just ship it. Just go ahead and use it. I was like, oh, it's not perfect. And she was like, it's okay. So having that A-team to support you, I shipped it. And I was like, oh, Lord, please don't laugh at me. But I like it when people laugh at me. So I'm like, oh, please laugh at me. I hope someone likes it. And there were a couple folks that were like, hey, that's good stuff. My first message, I'll never forget. It was say yes to you. And one of my high school classmates, she, I got the shirt, say yes to you.
Oh,
I just shared kind of what that means to me. And it was a minute, I think it was like 1 minute and 13 seconds. And then the next week I did it again. And then I did it again. And now 92 out of the last 93 weeks, I took off Father's Day of 2020. I just hung out with my kids. I said, nope, no midweek, midday motivational minute, but I've been able to touch folks internationally, India, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, England, just everywhere. And I had a gentleman, January 20th was inauguration day for the president here. Had a gentleman in India say, hey, Larry, it's 12 noon. Where you at? I said, hey, it's inauguration. I don't want to steal the shine from Kamala and Joe Biden. I'll be on a little bit later. He was like, whoa, thank you. I'll be waiting. So it's just like, that's, it's impactful. It's just been impactful. And I'll be honest with you, I love being able to impact others. And in addition, it's had an impact on me. It's kind of been therapy where the messages that I put out are a reminder to me, hey, Larry, you're putting this out. Let's put the mirror up. Are you living it? Are you doing what you're telling other people to look out for? And it's been a huge just wake up call, a huge blessing. So I started off scared. And then when I went live, the first time that I went LinkedIn live, so before I was doing recording,
this is the story I was talking
when
about.
I went live, I was so nervous. I was like, my wife, I couldn't sleep. She was like, calm down, baby, just breathe. And she was outside. She was praying, please let someone show up. So I hit the live button and you can't, like, there's like a delay. So I'm talking and there's no one there. So I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna be talking to myself about today's message. And then people started coming in, putting in comments. I was like, whoa, my wife was like, thank you. And it's been amazing to have that engagement, to be able to go live. And it's one of those things that a lot of times, at least for me, I paint a picture of it being scary and it's like when you really do it, it's not that bad. It's actually enjoyable. And it's crazy thinking back to this journey of where I'm at now. It's just so much growth and just so much confidence and just so much support from everyone, you included. It's just been amazing. I talked to my coach about it. She calls it thrilling. And it really is. Think about it. Are you living a thrilling life? I want all your listeners to ask yourself, look in the mirror. Am I living a thrilling life where each and every day is just thrilling? And if you're not, let's go to work to get there. Let's make some progress to get you there where you're living a life that you're saying, who would have thunk it?
No, absolutely. Like, I will never forget that story you told me. And you said that your wife was like praying that someone joins. Like, I was just, I was absolutely floored. But you know, like you said, everything always seems scary until you do it for the first time. You know, and I think you're absolutely right in terms of, you know, many a times I've listened to those, and it was the pep in my step I needed, or I've shared the video and sent it to someone who was, you know, probably going through something rough, or the message I think just resonated with them. So, you know, never underestimate, I guess, you know, who you're touching in that moment. As much as those 60 seconds seem like, you know, short, you know, they like you said, it's truly impactful, you know, for a lot of people. So yeah, now long may it continue. Definitely long may it continue. So we're coming up to modern day, or present day, let's say. I want to know what the transition was like, because like you said, you know, we've gone through now a few companies, obviously, in terms of the career and the progression and, you know, the experiences there. But now we're at this stage where, you know, I think you really stepped into just absolutely who you were meant to be. And in terms of, you know, the speaking, the keynote speakers, the MC, just all of it, you know, remarkable journey, you know. And like I said, I've been, you know, privileged to be firsthand to witness, you know, the greatness. So I definitely, you know, applaud you and champion you every step of the way. But in terms of now transitioning into this space, you know, what were some of the, you know, kind of hurdles, or what were the things that you found, you know, to be different to, or were there any differences in terms of the sales leadership roles and all the other, I guess, spaces you occupied before this?
Yeah, well, you summed it up. I'm right where I need to be. Even at Channel Advisor, when I came over to London to work with the team and coach the team, I've always had a coaching spirit, and that's where I need to be. And I knew it, but really the obstacle was, it was me, myself, and I. It was that person in the mirror. I was scared. I was scared to branch out on my own because of my past experience. And what I learned is past experiences are past experiences. You learn from it. But I was just paralyzed with fear to make that jump and to leave my comfort zone. You know how it is in corporate America. You get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You get a commission check. You get a quarterly bonus. Life is good in the hood, but is it really? And my wife challenged me. She said, baby, you tell everyone else to pursue their dream. Look in the mirror. I said, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. She was right. I said, you're right. She said, what's up with that? what's going on? I said, I'm scared. I don't want to put our family through what I went through when my business failed. She said, well, first of all, let's get that thought of business failing out of your mind. And second of all, you must not know about me. You got a real one. Let's go to work. So we went to plan. We planned financially. We planned business-wise. I had my first paid speaking engagement March 17th at the beginning of the pandemic. That was 2020. And I had I think I had 13 paid engagements that year. 2021 came, March 26th. I got the call. Larry, we've eliminated your position. Thank you. My mom told me, she said, you better pray harder on the decision, because I was debating, do I leave my job? Nope, I'm scared. Well, I'm out of here. Forget this. I'm out of here. Nope, I'm scared. It always came back to being scared. So when they gave me that news, it was really the sign and the kick in the behind that I needed, that, hey, you're ready. And I think I was ready before, but I was just scared. It was like, hey, we're doing you a favor. And it's been such a blessing. I mean, I'm 10 months in, and I've been blessed beyond belief. And my biggest worry was, how am I going to take care of my family? That's the least of my worries. My biggest worry now is, how can I impact more people everywhere, and how can I touch them and serve them? That's my biggest challenge now, is how do I expand it? Because I've been working behind the scenes on coaching, on building my brand, on getting my tribe, and really understanding what's my value. And now I'm stepping into it with a lot of help. My wife, my mom, my coach, all the people that I know, my colleagues, my friends, just supporting me. And I can tell you, there's no better feeling. No better feeling. It's just a big, because once again, I thought it was going to be scary. Uh-oh, what if I can't pay the bills? Uh-oh, how am I going to support my family? Uh-oh, I don't have that comfort of a check that comes in like clockwork. And it's been absolutely amazing. It's been mind-blowing. And I just appreciate you allowing me to share my journey, because it's been quite the journey, adventure, misadventure. But I can tell you one thing, it's been fun the entire way.
Yeah. Nah, dude, I don't think you fully understand. We'll hopefully get a chance when we were talking offline, obviously. God willing, you're able to definitely come over to this side of the pond later on, and we can really, link up and chop it up. But I think you're not really going to fully appreciate just, I was almost living vicariously through you in terms of your journey, because like you said, that fear is no joke. And us being in the space where, you can often find yourself comfortable, you can often find yourself a bit complacent, because you're doing something that you know well, or that you're doing well, and you're getting paid well, you're compensated very well for it. And it often, it kind of holds you back from truly being or wanting to do what you actually would like to be doing or should be doing in a lot of cases. And I think when I saw, you were really putting yourself out there, and I said to myself, I was like, wow, even though I knew, I was like, yeah, this makes complete sense. To me, I was like, of course, this probably should have been done 3, 4, 5 years ago. But I knew, and I could relate to, kind of just having that fear, if you will, or that uncertainty about, like you said, taking care of your family, the people that rely on you, responsibilities, yada, yada, all that stuff that comes with it. But it's just testament to, like you said, your wife, your mom, just the people around you, I'm going to have your back regardless. So it's one of those things where, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch, really how you've been able to navigate and make that transition to where, like you said, you're now truly kind of, walking, I think, in that path that you were meant to be, so yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure to watch all the way.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your support. And you said it, I call it FUD, not Elmer Fudd, but fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That voice in the back of, at least for my head, I've really had to be intentional with getting that voice out and speaking. My coach said, Larry, I'm amazed at how positive you are, how supportive you are of other people. But when it turns to you, wah, wah. She was like, you're terrible to yourself. And she was right. And I used to mask it as, I expect so much of myself. She said, that's not doing you any favors. That's holding you back. that negative self-talk, that I'm not good enough. She said, that's going to hold you back. So I've had to let that go, and I'm still working on it. It's a challenge. A lot of high performers are challenged with being so tough on themselves. You got to give yourself grace. The fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you've got to intentionally work on overcoming that. And I think they call it imposter syndrome. You belong. You belong, and you deserve what that is. Now, it's not going to come easy. You got to work. You got to plan. You got to get your A team to support you. But if you want it, go get it. So if there's nothing that anyone takes away from our combo, there was a lot that we talked. It's that you are worthy. Let's step into that greatness. We all have it inside of us. I'm here to give you that jolt so that you can believe in and really step into your greatness and do great things. You can do it. I'm here to tell you that with all my mics, you can do it.
The gold, the rose gold, I love it. Dude, like I said, I appreciate you on so many levels. And, like I said, we've hopefully captured, a journey that hopefully will inspire, number one, and motivate a lot of people, whatever situation you may be in. I'm sure, after this, hopefully they're seeing things a bit different. Their POV and the lens that they're looking through kind of changes and really makes them believe that, like you said, you're worthy. You absolutely can do whatever it is you want to do. Really, you just got a plan, put that hard work in, and move with God. So yeah, no, this has been fun. I'm putting it out there now. We definitely are gonna, because I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of messages, a lot of people reaching out. As we've been blessed as well, actually, with a lot of people who've been contacting us, whether it's in DM, whether it's an email, or whatever it may be, just on social media, just saying keep going, loving the conversations, really kind of expanding the network and getting a lot of people who from a similar ilk and really understanding what we're trying to build, in terms of bring others along and what that actually means to me. Like I said, it came from a personal place, so to see that resonate with other people and, they're actually sharing the same kind of feelings and understanding of what I'm trying to do. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, 100%.
Love it. I encourage you. I love what you're doing. I love your purpose, your vision. And I just encourage you to keep doing the damn thing, Shane.
My guy. Well, yeah, no, like I said, I'll make sure, like I said, we stay in touch regardless, on a consistent basis. But in terms of, bringing some of this, the Larry Long Jr. kind of essence to the audience, we'll definitely be, cheering you on and looking at the journey and making sure that, we tap in, when things are bigger and better and, the ceiling has been absolutely ripped off and it's like, right, what do we talk about next? So I'm looking forward to that conversation, hopefully in person, like I said, when you get a chance to pop over, we'll sit down and definitely chop it up. I'm looking forward to seeing the family as well. So yeah, lots more to discuss, but we'll draw it to a close. I know you've got some stuff going on. I've also, got to get some stuff wrapped up as well. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it. And one thing I will, leave in terms of a final question is something we put forward to all the guests, which is, who would you like to bring along? And from that perspective, what we're referring to is, other people who are, of the culture from our communities, who are doing great things, who are, kind of leading the way in terms of their own journey, their own story, and the people that they're bringing along. Who would you recommend to maybe sit in? Probably not your seat, that's a big seat to fill, but who would be a great person to come on and definitely share and add some gems to the audience as well.
Yeah, this is the easy one, and actually it's the easy two. I'm gonna give you two names. I know you only asked for one, but it's got to be my homegirl Gaylam Girmay over there in London, doing absolutely amazing things. Ooh, and then number two, my brother Morgan J. Ingram, unbelievable, down in Hotlanta. Don't tell him I said Hotlanta. He hates that, but he's holding it down in Hotlanta, doing big things. He's been an inspiration to me. both of them. And Galem's got her podcast, What's Your Legacy? Yeah, oh my goodness, it's been fantastic. So those two would be my recommendations.
100%. And obviously Galem, I think we've crossed paths and we've communicated a bit. Obviously she's had a lot going on, and like you said, her podcast is absolutely brilliant as well. You know, I've tapped in a few times, so definitely would love to get her on. I'm sure her story is remarkable, and I love having, you know, kind of from a woman's perspective and really kind of seeing, you know, how that dynamic differs as well. So that's really good. And you know, to be fair, anyone you recommend, we'll definitely make sure we're pestering and getting them on for a few episodes. So we'll definitely be in touch with those guys. But you know, as always, I'll just end it with, you know, thanking everyone first and foremost, you know, who's been absolutely kind of involved in any shape or form with the podcast, who's been, you know, kind of rating, who's been kind of sending us, you know, messages, who's been really wanting to know, you know, what's next, what's coming up. So there's a lot in the pipeline, some new guests, some really amazing people who we've tapped in with, and they're willing to jump on the platform and share their stories, and you know, just build a community. Like we said, you know, we want to make it part of the culture to bring people along. And this, I think personally, is the only way we can really build something that's lasting and, you know, really cherish in terms of, you know, just each one teach one. You know, I think that's the way forward. So yeah, Larry, mate, this has been everything I expected and more. So like I said, I really, really do appreciate you a hell of a lot, my brother, and I thank you for coming on today. Really, really do.
Feeling is mutual. Thank you, Shane. Keep shining, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep transforming lives. What you're building is absolutely amazing. Let's rock.
Yeah, let's go, my guy. All right, well, guys, that's another episode in the bag. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.